Hello, everyone, and welcome to LFG, where we find a party to share what they've learned from game making. I am your host, Tina, and today with me I have the solo developer of the incredible game Mix Universe, as well as a couple of our own audio engineers who are going to be hanging out to help talk a little bit about some of the tech behind here. And mainly, we're just going to be kind of hanging out in game, watching some incredible stuff. I feel like me talking about it isn't going to give any credit to what the actual experience is like. So we'll just kick off with introductions here. Zuko, let's go ahead and start with you. Do you mind telling everyone just a little bit about yourself?
Cool, yeah. My name is Chris Zukowski. I go by Zuko for short. There's two of us in the industry. I am one of the cool, like, we're both cool. I think we're both cool. And yeah, I started as an environment artist, kind of became a technical artist over time. And then for the last 5 years, I've been developing this musical sandbox game, which we'll be talking about pretty much the entire stream, I imagine.
Hopefully. That's the point, at least. And then next we have Max. Would you like to tell us a little bit about yourself as well?
Yeah, sure. I'm an audio programmer on the Unreal Engine team, working under Aaron McLaren, and I was the primary developer behind a system called Quartz, which Chris uses a lot. Zuko uses a lot in his project.
I like the way you said that, like it was no big deal. Just a little thing, words you might have heard about it. And then last but certainly not least, we have Aaron. Would you like to tell us a little bit about yourself as well?
Sure. So I've been at Epic now for like 8.5 years or so, and have in a large percentage of that time been interacting with Zuko over various community social channels, and he very quickly became one of our like most diehard early adopters on almost all the tech that we were rolling out. Like we'd check it in, and then a couple weeks later we'd get a ping from Zuko, "Hey man, this is cool," or "this has some perf issues," or "Hey, I found a bug." I just commit a so Chris and I go, or sorry, Zuko and I go way back, and so I was really excited to hear that he was going to be on the stream, and I think it'll be a really fun conversation. So I will say briefly that the Unreal Audio Engine started kind of humble 8.5 years ago, and I was the only audio programmer on the team, but now we have quite a few audio programmers at the company. Depending on how you count, there's like 15 or 16 audio programmers spread across all of our different projects. On the core UE audio team, we're about six, and Max is on the team. He's done more than just Quartz. He's one of our uh, uh, very reliable programmers who can kind of jump into anything. But if you have any Quartz question, he's the one that I'll throw him under the bus so you can answer about it.
Keep
Anyways,
involved.
thanks for having me on, Tina and Zuko.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Happy to have you here. All right, Zuko. For anyone who's unfamiliar with Mixed Universe, before we hop in, do you mind giving us kind of a quick rundown of what it is we're going to be getting into?
Sure. Yeah. Is the stream good? We're good now. I can, everybody can see things.
We can swap to your screen if you want, yeah.
Yeah. So I guess the basic premise is that this is you play as a Mixonaut, this little guy here, um, creating good vibes in the universe, bringing good vibes to the universe. So everything here is all real time. So if I go up to a node, you'll see it makes a sound, and then all of these nodes can be edited. And this one I think is a really cool one because it kind of shows uh, just how you can use the systems, and everything here was created in game. So we just let it roll. It's kind of a nice like ambient type sound, and it over time adds layers.
So this music that's being played right now, this is was this made by you?
This is made by Eric Buchholz. I hope I said that right. uh, he was a composer that helped out with a lot of these like early mixes for the early access. And I guess I need to say that too, is that this is out on early access now. So it's still in progress, but is very much playable. So what's really neat is that since everything is real time, I can go in now and then I can use something called these like vibe nodes to kind of add to things. And this one is a really fun one to add to because it just kind of starts adding like these cool little boops. Oh, there's some extra boops. and then everything just plays real time and is synced up and is visually immersive. It's all happening real time. All these like spectral signatures are all based on whatever sound is playing.
So you're telling me that while the music's happening and I'm immersed in this environment, I can modify and create music while it's happening live?
That is what I just
That's
did.
crazy. So what's the difference between this and a digital audio workstation?
Oh man, you're throwing that one at me right away, aren't you?
I know, sorry. I told you I wasn't going to ask you any gotcha questions.
So this isn't really a DAW, which is what a lot of people kind of look at this. They're like, "What? Why is this? Like, why would you do this, not FL Studio or like anything like that?"
Exactly.
And I kind of just, my main answer to that is that FL Studio comes packed with, or like any other DAW, comes packed with so many features to make like production level music, and is all like has years and years of build up to it. But this is not really meant for that. It's more to mean it's meant to be an experience, a musical like fun experience. And it's also like you don't really need to know music to have fun either, and that's kind of like one of the big things about it. So if I were to just go back and start again, to clear the slate a little bit. If I were to just start from scratch, I can just kind of make things and connect them together.
I love your fog of war. Literally, it's like the fog of music.
The fog of music.
You're like pushing back into the world of creativity where anything's possible. You know?
Yeah, so like all these nodes are automatically picking. So the first one I did picked for me G sharp major, which there are, if you're a music buff, you can get at me for like all the different scale choices, but for the most part, if you're just kind of going through and not really caring about what the notes exactly are, you can go through and just place the boops down, and right away you get something really interesting. And there are like tutorials to help make this a little bit easier to understand, but you can see just how quickly like I made something cool. And then from here there's drum nodes, which if I connect it to the main starter node is sending out a pulse, and then it activates this drum node. And now these drum nodes can be changed on the fly as well. So I can be like the typical like hip hop style, like or I think it's like 3 and 6. And then from here I can add like snares and stuff.
I'm seeing the graph like bounce and dance and light up and stuff. Like, what's happening there? Like, how did you get it to?
So all the audio spectrals are being done like real time. So what this is sounding like is actually visually displayed using a plugin called Audio Synesthesia plugin, and it's all like real time analyzation of the audio component. So everything is like, there's really no faking what it sounds like here.
And that's a plugin that people can download for their own projects as well. I mean, it's part of the.
It's part of the engine,
release. Yeah. Our team works on that. Phil Pop is one of the guys that started that.
So, the one thing that I think is really neat though is if anybody here has seen the trailer at all, because you might have taken a look at it, this early access trailer was completely made in the game. So I'll go over a lot of this, like the crazy complex stuff that's happening here, but the main thing that I want to just emphasize is that this is all in-game. Like, none of the trailer was faked, is kind of what I'm getting at, is I can just straight up hit space, and there might be an initial bug. I think we're good. Oh, there it is. So none of this stuff was faked in the trailer. So I'm literally doing basically like the same route that the trailer has. In all
literally
these nodes.
Flying through your music.
Yep. I did use a controller for the trailer, so it's a little bit smoother. And I didn't fly through things.
I was going to ask, I feel like I remember you saying something about spending quite a while in this scene just finding the right flight path for going through.
So like I flew around to the other side before and basically get to this point. I say that everything's playing real time, even lasers and stuff. Then I fly through over here. And it's one of those things I can just say it's real time I always say it's real time, but I don't think people really understand until they see it and play it that
Yeah.
like all these nodes are actually making the sounds that you hear.
Yep. Yeah, so you use for all of the audio, like you're not an audio programmer, right?
I'm not. No.
So you built this crazy music system using basically Unreal Audio's capabilities in a way that kind of has blown the minds of my team for sure.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, I mean, like it certainly pushes the limits. Yeah, like the fact that this is real time also kind of makes me hurt inside a little bit, because it's like, wow, this is you build a tool and then someone like you comes along and completely takes it to extreme levels.
Yeah, no, it's really awesome. Like the stuff that meta sounds can do is nuts. And I know it just sounds like we're just promoting like Unreal's features, but it's honestly really awesome. Like that everything in here is because of meta sounds. Honestly, like which we can get more into the effects and stuff later. But like all of these different this setup here, the layers, the entire composition goes through, and then it'll play like these different sections. Once it gets to here, this square like layer switcher is what's doing the main switching of just what is in each different layer. You can tell every node to like go in a different layer, and this was all set up in game. Now, admittedly, something like this takes hours to do, versus
Yeah, compositionally, yep.
yeah, versus like what I showed in the beginning, which is booping real fast with the vibe nodes. But it doesn't mean that it like I feel like a lot of people without musical knowledge can just jump in and have fun, and then maybe like over time as they learn the systems, expand to make something really cool.
So the different layers are a really cool compositional tool. One of the things that is really hard when you sit down to write music is the like structure and composition. And I remember because I mean, you've been working on this for 5 years, kind of. I've, as a fan, been following your development, and I remember when you came up with layers, I was like, "Oh, it's sweet!" This idea of like compositional elements that you can swap to in and out, kind of I thought was very clever. And then you rolled out with that like really cool effect, that like splash effect.
Yeah, the whoosh.
Yeah, the whoosh thing. It was like really, a really cool thing. I mean, kind of.
Yeah, so this is also
it's kind of
using
stunning.
the Voxel plugin, so that's why you'll see the Voxels will do their thing as well. And I'm hoping to kind of improve a little bit of how those look, because they are kind of a little choppy, but I think they still work pretty well. Just as it's like loading in the world. But all this stuff here is placed and editable. Is kind of the main thing that I just want to make sure is coming across and is very clear, is that none of this is pre-baked. So like, all this has been set up and here using C# major, and then that's kind of what it sounds like just for the background track.
Yep. So you're using Nanite and Lumen as well for this, right?
Lumen, no, but Nanite, yes.
Okay.
So Lumen is still a little bit too expensive, and then also just in general haven't been able to wrangle it yet to make it look good.
Okay.
I think the Voxel plugin is still working on Lumen support as well, so once that's in, I might take a look at it again. But it's kind of a juggle, and Nanite is basically used mostly on the rocks and these cool spire thingies.
Okay. All right.
Very cool.
So, since we have Max here, how does Quartz work with here? Like, so a lot of people may not understand that challenge of doing something like this that has strong musical timing on the game thread. So this is actually doing a lot of logic on the game thread, and yet the music is consistent. It doesn't have jitter.
For the most part, there's some quirks every now and then, but yeah, it seems to maintain pretty well.
Yeah. So how did you use Quartz to kind of deal with some of those issues?
So Quartz is basically like handling almost everything in regards to timing. So if I went to like a blank layer here, and then I placed something like the starter node here, and I did this. These links to each of these nodes are they're kind of controlling the timing, and I use this to determine what's going to happen in the future. So what I have to do is when a node starts is I have to queue up and say that this one's going to happen at a certain time. So I have to kind of know when it's going to happen. If it's instant, then everything's kind of working a certain amount of time ahead. So Quartz is doing a great job at being able to queue up these sounds before they happen, which is partly why when I right click, it's, I think, slightly off. You can see it's not right away. And then if I hit to test the node, it's even more kind of like off a little bit, because what it's doing is it's queuing up the sound and then playing it when it should play it on the beat, and it allows.
And you have this sort of global tempo clock down on the bottom right.
Yep, this 108. Sort of like so if I do something like this,
the rhythm of the universe, literally, right?
You got some extra stuff in here. So these use the same type of system too, as when these are fancier like radar nodes, is what I like to call them. And as the music progresses around in this circular pattern, it'll pick. And you can kind of see it's doing the same thing here, but as it gets to like somewhere around here, it'll predict to be able to send out a signal. And that's the beauty of Quartz, though, is because I'm doing that, it doesn't really matter how how fast. And it's tuned pretty well to go at speeds.
We've in Fortnite we've switched over to using Quartz for our machine guns, so it can get pretty fast.
It's
you
really
can schedule events pretty quickly.
One of the ones that I like to show off is this Synapse Evolved, and this is a good one for Quartz too, because what this is doing is it's going through this pattern. So this is a main pattern that it's going to roll through, but then as it's going through, it's using those layer switcher nodes to switch between different tempos. So all these different layers have different tempos, and these nodes here change the BPM on the fly. So you can see this one's like 90, that one's 94, and these will change over the course of this like layer switching madness. You can see it's using pretty much like every layer. So each one of these, you can kind of see the level of it. So this is layer 2, this one's layer 3, that sort of thing, just to indicate.
So it's essentially like an automation control for your different layers, so you can build composition. So in a way, this layer is your like brain conductor track.
Kinda, yeah. This is
layer.
It's using which I can probably show the patterns a little bit more isolated too. But like the idea is that that's going to roll through each one of these chunks, and this is what it sounds like, which is just mesmerizing.
Yeah.
And then the other thing it's doing too is it's going to change pitch as well.
Yeah. By the way, this idea of this like visual sequencer where it's this crazy rotating triangle, when I first saw you post this online, I was like, oh my god, that is the coolest visualization of a
It does look so cool.
sequence.
This is another one by Eric.
So cool. It's neat that it's not just a visualization, but it's the actual
you can see it's at
too,
110, 106.
Yeah,
it's going up. And then the beauty of Quartz is that speed, as long as your frame rate's pretty good, speed doesn't really matter. So I can double things.
So one thing to point out, because you have it up, is on the lower left, you see that number going crazy? On the lower left of the screen, can you tell
the
people what
active
that number is?
sounds?
Yeah. So that's telling you how many meta sound instances are playing at any given time.
Right. Yes. That's all the active sounds, which this one's pretty light on, actually.
Yeah, a lot of these compositions go up to the hundreds. But what's relevant to that is that in the community, I get a lot of people, we call them mega sounds. Where like, people make these gigantic meta sound patches, and it's possible I mean, sure, if you want to make a mega patch, that's cool. But the intention is that it's used in instances. So like the sounds you get, you kind of compose your meta sounds more constrained, and then through Blueprint and through Control, you actually make your game run multiple sounds. That's like sort of what it's architected for.
Should we maybe do a quick overview
of? You can kind of see that
of meta sounds and Quartz. We've been dropping those words for people who don't know what those are.
Yeah, good call. So if you don't know what meta sounds are, if you've joined the thing and we're talking about it, what a meta sound is essentially a new feature in UE 5.0 for audio that allows you to essentially control the DSP graph, what the audio does at a low level. So you can create synthesis, you can apply filters and effects and all kinds of stuff, and precisely control your sound in a way that was not possible before that. And Quartz is an older API that was made in UE4, but is a Blueprint API that lets you kind of script and control your audio to happen at precise times, so that it can get scheduled so that the resolution of your audio timing is the resolution of your sample rate. So in other words, like if you're rendering at 60 frames per second, in that context, resolution of Quartz allows you to get down to 48 thousandths of a second in timing.
It's pretty awesome.
And it lets the audio engine communicate back to the game thread, like trigger logic and visuals and stuff on time. But it's interesting because Quartz predates meta sounds. And meta sounds, inside of meta sound, you have sample accurate control. You can do crazy stuff. And then a meta sound acts just like any other sound source. So Quartz, you can schedule a meta sound to play at the beginning of the thing. So there's a little bit of overlap in terms of precise timing.
Yep.
So I'm curious, Zuko, something I've been talking to different people in the community a lot is people trying to figure out for their projects the division of responsibility there. Like if you had a mega sound where everything was happening in that one sound and all of your sample accurate control was within the meta sound, it would be one approach, but it all is rendering one sound source versus you make use of like a hybrid approach. If you could go over that, what the division of the responsibility is between Quartz and meta sounds.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of benefits to split it up. There's overhead with that. Excuse me. But one of the benefits I would say is that if you play the individual meta sounds, you can more tightly control the performance. But also, you can spatialize the different individual meta sounds. You can control them more precisely and differently from other sounds. There's a lot of reasons why you'd want to split it up.
Cool.
I want to say, though, that conversation with that music in the background made it feel really epic.
Did it?
Oh, yeah, it's like, meta sound, sample accurate. You can do this, like... We should have that in the background whenever we talk about
You should do that through all of your meetings.
Exactly.
So this one is so you're talking about mega sounds. There's also something in Mix Universe that I like to call mega mixes. And so like what we just saw is something that is kind of like a mixture between a normal size mix and what I like to call bling mixes, because they just look cool and they sound cool, but they aren't really long or structured. This is something I would call a mega mix because it kind of rides the line of being able to even run. And this one's really cool too. This was another one set up by Eric Buchholz, and it's basically set up in really cool ways where all of these different chains kind of waterfall, and that's the whole entire theme of the entire thing is you'll see like these different waterfall sections. So if I play something like this, we'll hear this type of thing, and it'll roll through like different stages of the melody that way. So
I love the idea that the spatial visual layout would influence your compositional approach. There's something about that is really appealing to me.
I was really blown away when he started doing like cool waterfall type looking things.
Man, it's so good.
Makes me happy for a reason.
Yeah. I want this to be the
off
theme
really
song to my
happy
life
vibes.
when I wake up in the morning.
Yeah. So I have a question for you that's a little, um, it's a bit broader, I guess, overall, but did you have any main inspirations behind the game overall? Because it's this interesting combination of extremely unique, where I haven't seen anything quite like it, but also it is stirring some interesting nostalgia effects for me for some reason. So I was curious if you were inspired by any like retro games or things like that.
I think my main inspiration for the game comes from early days when I was testing ways to try and make cool. I guess a lot of my inspiration comes from Mega Man X. We'll just start from there because that music's awesome. But then like everything else from there, video game music is incredibly inspiring. So that's probably the main answer.
Cool.
And this is the river, I think is what he called it.
This is insane, Chris. Or sorry, Zuko. This is insane. This is absolutely insane.
But it's all happening real time.
I know.
I just want to emphasize that.
Wild.
Because it works.
Day and H, man behind the curtain right now, described it when we were prepping as roller coaster tycoon for making music, and I've started using that, describing it to people, because it really is kind of that same lane of satisfaction.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I do like that a lot. As
And
far as like
filling out.
yeah, it's hard to answer the main inspiration because a lot of it I think is just influenced over just the games that I've played over the years, and I have like a natural like inkling to music. I really like music. So when I first wanted to get into video games or music, or basically figure out what I was going to do for the rest of my life, I guess, as professionally, I had to choose between video games or music. And that was a hard choice for me, but I think ultimately what made that choice happen was I always felt like music is something that I could keep learning on my own and keep very personal, whereas video game stuff would be really hard to learn on my own, especially at the time with not as many YouTube tutorials or anything like that out. I think that's kind of the main answer to the question is just there's just a natural kind of passion for wanting to blend both worlds because of that always being a split divide in my life, like the fact that I have to focus on one or the other and not both.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I think we can sympathize. Somebody asked in YouTube about voice management, if you're just using concurrency or if you are doing some kind of custom voice management.
Yeah, so I use something that I like to call the audio pool, and it's just kind of like I spawn 128 audio components that are custom actors that have an audio component in them, and then I manage everything manually. So I don't use concurrency because I just found that I wanted to have more control than letting Unreal kind of destroy sounds on the fly. One of the ones I think that pushes things to the max, this is another mega sound, is this data lattice one.
Mega mix.
It's a mega mix, yeah.
Vortex.
I think I might have said mega sound. I don't even know what I'm saying. So this one pushes a little bit further into like 70s. At some points, it might actually get closer to like 100.
Do you have a hard limit there?
128 is the hard limit, I think.
Oh, you have a hard limit now?
Yeah.
At GDC, I was messing with it and I was trying to get to see how high I could get it before the audio started dropping out, and I think got it up to like 140, 150.
Wow.
I was just spamming the thing though. I made a crazy gigantic thing to see how with long duration, you know.
Yeah, this one you can kind of see it. It'll make things hitch a little bit. So I'm trying not to move the camera too much during the layer switching, and also when it's playing the blue layer. When the blue layer comes in, the performance gets a little rough. But
Looks awesome.
It looks
so cool,
especially when you go into like the data lattice.
Oh, nice. This is needs to be the background for your elementary school picture.
What?
Oh wait, maybe I'm too old for that.
No, so oddly specific.
No, I'm there. I get it.
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
I understand the joke. That's a good one.
So a question.
Thanks, Zuko.
You're running a lot of analysis on all the individual sources playing. Do you
Yeah.
have culling on that if you're far away?
Oh,
do you
interesting.
just
That's a good
stop
question.
analyzing certain nodes, that kind of thing?
Actually, no.
Nice.
So
That's a good idea, though.
it's a good idea, but it's hard to make work
Yeah.
with the way that I have this set up. So I've showed this off a little bit at GDC and stuff, but everything that you see is using Niagara for the most part. So if I do something like show particles, you'll see pretty much everything turns off because everything is essentially a particle.
That's amazing.
And they're all using a whole entire batched system that I developed for a game for my day job, which I didn't really explain clearly, I guess. So for the hardcore people who are in here this long, this is a game that I'm working on the side for 5 years. It's not like my primary thing.
Yeah.
And
Wild.
I work at a company called Terrible Posture Games as a technical director. So we developed a system there called Batch Effects, which was something we needed to do for Mother Gunship Forge on the Quest. And I was able to figure out all the legal shenanigans to get that into Mix Universe as well. So that's what I'm using for all these nodes, is I'm able to batch everything on the fly and make it so that you can have 300 and some odd nodes and then all the different links together without running into draw call overhead and all that stuff.
Have you chatted with the Niagara team at Epic about it?
Yes. I've been in contact with like a couple people there. Yeah, they thankfully helped me out quite a bit with getting it to not crash on the Quest. So
Well, I mean, when you're doing amazing stuff like this, pushing tech to the limits,
yeah,
it's good to help you out.
Folks at Epic are really helpful with that type of stuff. So like that's kind of an example of like mega mixes, and there's a few others that are really interesting we might pull up later.
Show me that turtle one. It's that turtle one. The turtle one was ridiculous.
All right, we'll go to the turtle one.
Hey, it's Turtle's Wisdom.
Oh,
I was just about to say it's got
nothing
my last
happened.
name. Oh no.
Oh, was it my fault?
It was the turtle. It was too powerful.
Yeah.
It's turtles all the way down.
Man, I was worried that we might get a crash. I don't know what crash that was. That's a new one that I'm not aware of.
It's probably in meta sounds. You can blame me.
Yeah.
I stream the call stack. We're brave.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's debug it. Let's flip it over to something hardcore.
I blame data lattice. That thing pushes things to the limit. Okay, we should be good to go.
By the way, I love this opening.
I was just gonna say.
Title that you have. Where you're analyzing the audio that's currently playing, overlaying on your logo. It's so cool looking.
Thanks. Yeah, so it's early access. That's partly why.
It's okay. You don't have to defend it.
I'm.
Yeah. Are you feeling
I'm not
judgment of
embarrassed
thousands of
at all
people
by
right
that.
now?
And I'm gonna move on and open up Turtle's Wisdom just fine. Look, see, it opened fine.
First take. It's okay. We'll cut it in post, right? Right?
Hopefully this is
I
coming
just
through
love that you
again.
made
Yeah.
a turtle shape. You know.
This was really interesting because at first Eric had made it just a turtle kind of on accident, and then we were like, wait, can we make it move? So all the different layers are set up so that way
Oh, no.
it actually
It's like animating
animates it. And it's really slow at first. And you're like, oh, is it moving?
You barely notice that it's moving. You're like, wait a second, did that move?
Right. I mean, it's a turtle.
Yeah, it's gotta move slowly.
But you can make it move
Ooh, I love that.
a little bit faster.
So I actually do have a legit question because I played quite a bit with this when the early access came out, and I'm kind of curious how you dealt with like volume mixes, because I feel like that's a hard part when you use a digital audio workstation. You're trying to make music, is getting the balances of different things, and you don't have a lot of controls in that space, but yet it still seems to always be well balanced.
Yeah, true.
What was your approach to that? Like all the different instruments and all the different drums kind of just working well together.
I think a lot of it was just bringing things in decently leveled from like the sounds that I'm using in the game, or even just like the synthesized sounds, trying to get a normalized level first for the audio. So that way, at the very least, just placing stuff from scratch should sound okay. And then on top of that, I'm doing a decent amount of compression just to kind of like flatten things quite a bit.
I was curious if you were using one of the compressors.
Yep, I'm using the dynamic on the sub mixes for that one. So the
Do you
master
use it on just the
submix,
masters? Okay.
Yep, has that.
Yeah,
and
it's
then
well balanced. It seems pretty good.
I think I still have one on the meta sounds that each play as well, just to kind of like make sure that no like individual sound can poke too far.
Okay.
But I don't remember if that one's actually in still.
Yeah, it sounds.
Is that
sounds great.
As a source effect, you use it?
I
can't remember.
think,
Do we add a node? A compressor
yeah,
node?
it's just a node.
Oh, I forgot we added one.
Yeah, we actually, I think it's the same type of compressor in a node format for meta sounds.
Yeah.
To that point, actually,
We were doing porting.
for people that have played with Metasounds a little bit, but you've gotten something that really scales. You have different sounds and stuff playing. So is it a bunch of instances of one type of meta sound? Like, how is that structured and organized? Or do you have different categories?
Yeah, how many meta sounds graphs do you have?
Well, so if you would have asked me 2 months ago, I would have said everything's using the same meta sound. But now with 5.3's new meta sound builder,
I told he's bleeding edge. He's 5.3 is not even out.
Someone asked about the builder API, and so this was a leading question.
So this is absolutely using the builder API now, and like the data lattice one that I just showed literally builds 400 individual meta sounds on the fly. Is a good way to put that. Is every single one of these nodes is its own individual unique meta sound right now.
So it went from one meta sound for everything to every single thing is a unique meta sound.
Yeah, it kind of
with one refactor.
So what was the benefit of that? Why go through the effort of making these graphs constructed dynamically versus just having copy paste?
Yeah, so
it might be worth explaining in detail what dynamic meta sounds are to begin with, though.
Yeah, I think so. So just to kind of go starting from super basics here, every single node, right, can play a sound, but then on top of that, there are effects you can add to the nodes. So this is kind of like the effect list. There's mostly basic stuff, like you got filtering, and all this stuff you can change on the fly. And the beauty of something like Metasounds is like you can pump in these values to the Metasound, and this like filter biquad node exists in Metasound, and then you can adjust the parameters on the fly. What I used to do
as an input from Blueprint.
What was that?
As as an input from Blueprint.
Right. Or C++. And what I used to do is kind of something like this, where I would have pretty much like every effect on here, kind of like this. This is probably a good representation of how the Metasound used to look. So if you had something like this, where all these nodes or all these like elements added to this, like pitch isn't doing anything right now. Yeah. Pitch stretched, the duration is 1, so that's not doing anything. Panning right now, like left and right, doesn't do anything until, it changes. If I go like this, you can hear it comes out of the left to the right ear. Everything isn't really applying anything, but it's still adding to the cost.
Yep.
And that's the main reason why the Builder API was so important for a project like this, is I used to be incurring a cost for every single sound just by sharing a like master meta sound. Whereas
maybe to put it differently, you would have one meta sound that had all possible topologies of every possible effect that would run for every single sound that you wanted to play, even if you weren't using that effect.
Correct.
Just in case you did want to use the effect. So even if you had a simple sound, it would actually, under the hood, be a mega sound with all these possible configurations.
Correct. That is, yep, that's how it used to be. And thankfully, the Builder API essentially just allows you to set up something like this on the fly. So now this cost for this sound playing is literally just the sound and the filter, which is
Yeah.
so much better for performance, and
Yeah.
also just in general allows from a design perspective for me to actually get a little
Yeah.
bit more fun with these nodes. Like these, for instance, um, are it's now kind of like a proper effect stack. So any sound I can add any other type of thing to it.
Yep.
Um, so this is an additive synth sound, and then I can do like a second octave additive.
Yep.
That's starting to get uh, 3 extra layers on top of that. I can do the
Yep.
same with square.
Yep. So you only pay for what you need.
Yep. And in this case, it's paying a decent amount because now,
Yeah, now it's getting expensive. But the thing is that it also helps your workflow because, like, let's say Metasounds comes up with new nodes, or you want to download a third-party library that adds a bunch of cool effects. Then you don't need to go back to your like mega parent patch and make everything cost more, right? You can just
exactly.
add. Oh, I can add these. You can maybe even make it dynamic. Maybe you could someday make plugins for Mix Universe where someone could maybe just add to
That
your
would be
palette
wild.
library, and you wouldn't have to change anything because it's just dynamically adding to it, right?
I guess that's true. I never thought of that though, until you brought it up. So that's pretty dope.
There you go.
uh, yeah, and then I think one of the other cool things about the game at the moment is there's beginner mixes you can roll into. So just to kind of go to from a game standpoint, right now, it's a musical sandbox, so everything you kind of do have to make from scratch at the moment. But there are certain things you can do where you start with simpler things. So this like is called Simple Vibe. You can load it up, and the what it looks like is something like this. You hit play, and then it's kind of built in a way to allow you to vibe off of it nicely. So it's not nearly as much of a I guess overwhelming feeling as it would be loading up like one of the mega mixes. So from here I can just kind of add on to this. Or if I didn't want to add on, I can kind of look around and be like, oh, what's this? And connect over to something that exists. And now when this goes over here, so it just kind of, I'm trying to over time improve like the initial experience because that is definitely one of the things that it came up a lot because I did a play test period about a year before I released into early access, and it's one of the big things that I've been improving on over and over time is just trying to get people in and having fun as quick as possible and not feeling like they're actually in a DAW or something.
Yeah.
So it so that's something I just want to emphasize too. Is just over time, I'm very receptive to that feedback, and I know about a lot of the complaints when it comes to that, and I'm trying as much as I can to try and improve it over time. And I think this is a fun way to do it.
Yeah, definitely. I'm kind of curious because obviously a lot's changed as the audio team keeps coming out with even greater tools. You keep adapting them in. But I'm curious if overall there have been any pretty major changes from the beginning of this project to what you have now, besides just having to update tools as they come.
I'd say quite a bit. Like I didn't used to have these automatic nodes. From I'd say like probably the earliest form of the project is literally just nodes, and then I don't even have like a note selector or anything like that. And just having them connect to each other and just play is probably like the basics of where it started. And then I think if we were to equate it to something like a year ago I didn't have things like scales in the game, so you can go in and select like a scale to conform the notes to, which helps quite a bit for just selecting notes that are tonally nice together or whatever. And then from there, there's a whole slew of these extra nodes. So we have things like the layer switcher nodes, but then these modulator nodes, which I don't think I've shown really anything of yet. So if we take something like the effects, you know, a lot of it, I guess the main answer to the question is just a lot of design stuff has been added to the game and
Yep.
changed over time, which
Yep.
is constantly iterating, constantly evolving, and it's a lot of fun because of that, I think.
And on your
We could probably
YouTube,
plug.
on your
Oh, go
YouTube,
on.
I think you have some good, like where we started, where it is now.
Yes,
That thing, it looks cool.
I've got
Yeah, I was gonna also plug. Zuko's given a talk at GDC and at Game SoundCon last year. Epic sponsored Game SoundCon, and we invited him to talk.
Woo.
And it's, in my opinion, his talk about the sort of evolution of it through time is really inspiring from a just a creator's
thank you.
standpoint. Just like someone who makes things, it's cool, and you
Right,
articulated
that
it
one's
really
less
nicely. The
technical for
process,
sure.
yeah,
That was at Game
it's like,
SoundCon last year.
yep,
And there are links. If you join the Mix Universe Discord, there's links to
yeah,
it from there, or
yep,
just in general. I think you can just type in Mix Universe on YouTube, and it's one of like the 4 videos that'll show up for it
yeah,
right away.
yeah. It's pretty inspiring. I mean, it's hard to be creative, especially as a side job, over with the consistency that you've been at it.
It's been quite a passion project so far, and um, you know, I plan on working on it still for another year or two before
Yeah,
1.0, and there's a lot of like little things and a lot of cool things that I want to get in, which I'm excited about. So something that is neat with the effect system is these modulator nodes can affect all these nodes on the fly,
yeah,
without doing individuals. And one of the new things that I'm going to keep expanding upon is that you can apply effects of it. So like I can set the pitch just like that, but a neat thing is I can do it based on radius as well, which is
yeah.
there's no like visual indicator because it's a rather new add to the game.
So like where it is relative to the center, it changes the modulation.
Correct. So
So cool.
I'll make sure I turn off this guy, which this is going to sound.
Oh, that's amazing.
So if I just kind of go,
Get some microtonal compositions in there.
I knew Aaron would like this.
I like really weird music.
Jazz.
Yeah.
So it's jazz.
this is how you get your microtonals right now in the game
That's
for
what
sure.
I'm talking about.
It sounds
All right, I'm
wonderful.
You should
I was
make this
pretty skeptical until now.
monetized DLC. Aaron will be your whale. Every quarter tone costs $5.
I'll be so I do want to say one thing that you said in your talk that I thought was really, really inspiring and kind of interesting was you would say that you would get stuck on something like technically or design or UX. You'd be like, I don't know how to solve this. And so rather than kind of freak out and give up, you were like, I'll just go learn a whole other domain, or I'm gonna go solve a different problem. And you would kind of just let yourself creatively meander in a way, and somehow something would pop up, or you'd come up with a solution or something to work around it. You wouldn't let yourself get blocked creatively. And I think this project kind of manifests as that. You could tell it's like there's so many interesting, whimsical, like almost like over the top things that if you're doing a side project, like the amount of effort that you put into your like asteroids.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, the asteroids don't really do anything. They just kind of sit there and like bounce. Like, why did he put so much energy? And it's like, oh, it was probably
It's because I was
something to
stuck on
do and
something
be
else.
creative. Yeah, while you're thinking about a different problem. I know. I think it's like a really cool, lesson to learn about creativity. That just go play around and just explore, and solutions can come or don't come. You don't really. It doesn't matter if you're just having fun.
Yeah,
And
I
I
think
think that's
that
really
at
cool.
least works for me. I know everybody's a little different when it comes to that, but that's kind of like my secret is I just try to just move on to something else and come back. And
Yeah.
while I'm in this something else, my brain will be actively thinking about
Yeah.
that other thing, and then eventually, I come back to it, hopefully within a timely manner. You know, sometimes I honestly think about stuff. I've been thinking about, for instance, like these voxel nodes. So these are another feature in the game, which you've seen a couple things where I can place these nodes from scratch and place them all over the place. I had the idea for this about like a year and a half ago or something like that, and I was just like, I want to be able to place some sort of like land mass and have it go together. And I was like, well, voxels sound really amazing. The
Yeah.
problem is, at the time, the voxel plugin wasn't really ready for it. So I ended up buying the Voxel plugin and then going, it's not exactly ready. And then I just kind of kept up with it and kept it in the back of my head until eventually I saw the update for Voxel plugin 2.0. And in 2.0, they advertise the fact that you can have individual brushes, is what they call these, and these brushes are creating land masses on the fly. And I was like, "That's it. That's what I want."
So sometimes all you got to do when you get
Is just
stuck on a
wait
problem
for
is
somebody
wait a
else to do
bit,
it.
and then somebody at Epic solves it.
That's not Epic. That's
Oh, that's not a good. Sorry, I
yeah
don't know. I don't
yeah.
know the world
Voxel
that's
plugin is Victor
I
Corel.
see.
Victor
I
and
see.
Victor. Yeah.
Yep,
Or someone
the
in the
dual
community
victors.
solves it. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So it's just somebody else solves it.
I think they've been on
Then
Inside
you use their
Unreal
plugin.
and stuff like that.
Cool, cool.
So they're cool peoples. So just to shout out that that's what this is using that plugin. It took a little bit to get there, so thankfully they kind of like saw what I was trying to do and helped out to improve some of the systems. But overall, it's just super cool to see something like this actually in the game. And that's just from a creative standpoint. It was an idea that just festered and eventually turned into something. Um, so
Awesome.
that's it's hard to describe those moments, because a lot of creativity is just kind of going with the flow. But
So here's a question somebody kind of asked, and I think it does allude to something interesting. So you started as just an art. We talked about this before the stream. You started as just an environment artist,
mhm.
then became technical, then started coding and getting deeper. So this project, in that frame of mind, how much of this is in blueprints or C++, or like what's the divide here?
Plugins, yeah.
Or
so
plugins?
uh, so I think a good point to bring up is um, when I started this project around five or so years ago. Um, that was right at kind of like the height of both of my like artistic and technical skill sets starting to combine and converge together. So
Interesting.
without without both of them being together, I feel like it would have been a completely different story as to like how this developed over time.
Interesting.
Uh, but yeah, I think I forgot the initial question. I do that a lot.
Just the mix of blueprints, like the spread of like technical
Right.
implementation.
So because I was at the height of both of those and they were merging together, a lot of this stuff is using C++ right out of the gate, where things like all the different node actors, because each one of these is an individual actor, that is actually like a C++ actor. There's no they are a blueprint class, but most of it's just to set up the components
Yes.
and
Yep.
in an artistic way rather than it is to do logic.
Yep.
So all of like the logic to handle like all the nodes is in C++.
Mm.
Everything for the character is blueprints. Like as far as how the character is doing this, that's all like Anim blueprint because there's a lot of things when it comes to creativity and prototyping that type of stuff that I think is faster in blueprints. And I think that's the main gist is the spread is throughout, and a lot of like the pretty much all of the node system is custom and plugins and stuff. Using the Voxel plugin, and then there's the audio synesthesia plugin that comes with Unreal for all of the visualization effects. So that's how you can do stuff like this. The Niagara Fluids plugin is active right now, so that's kind of a
Is that the
nice.
clouds?
That's this like effect. So if you see, it's kind of easier to see when you transition in and out of things.
Oh, cool.
There's actually like a fluid simulation happening um, around the nodes, and then also just there's like I did a tutorial on how I did like this fog of war thing, so that's also on my YouTube. So that's how like each node penetrates through. That's a that is using Niagara, but then also kind of a mix between Niagara fluids. And I think I there's there's quite a few plugins together for sure. I don't know
So
all of them off the top of my
what
head.
I like about it though is that it's a kind of hybrid approach where you put in the domain where that domain has an advantage. Like you don't restrict yourself to one rule or another. You're not like only C++ or only Blueprint or whatever. You're kind of like whatever kind of works well for that domain. I
Right.
found for really complicated logic, personally, doing it in C++ works really well, better than Blueprint this from my standpoint, because I can see the code, I can search through things. It's just a little bit easier from a development environment to deal with complicated logic versus a bunch of different nodes. Um, but there's also some performance implications with blueprints. If you're doing a lot of stuff, a lot of small calls that can kind of add up with
Yeah.
some
Yeah.
overhead.
I was going to ask Zuko, the stuff that the controllers that you wrote in C++, was the motivation for that mostly performance or personal
Yep.
comfort, or to actually give you access to things that could you have
Um,
done all that stuff in Blueprint?
you could probably do all this stuff in Blueprint, but yeah, the overhead would be quite significant as far as the added cost for Blueprints. To manage 1,000 nodes on screen, it's kind of like the way I always kind of equate it is for any type of system stuff. When you want to start and do your prototypes, sure, go into Blueprint, do your thing. Don't
Yep.
worry about it too much. Get it doing a thing that you really want it to do. Then from there, as soon as you start talking about, I need to add in a struct inside of a struct that is
Yeah,
managing all this
exactly.
data and sending the data to here, that's when it's so much easier
Yeah.
if you have the knowledge for C++ or if you want to
Yeah.
learn C++,
Yep.
jump into that when you start doing struct management because
When you start thinking about data structures
Yep.
and algorithms, and you're like, what's the most efficient algorithm to do this? Like, you probably should just go to C++. There's like this sort of depth of complexity, but prototyping Blueprint's perfect. I mean, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, you
What,
can still make a game with all blueprints. It's just you're going
yeah,
to ultimately suffer some sort of cost for it.
yeah,
It's just not avoidable. But I don't want to just be here and say like you have to learn C++. It's like
Right.
yeah.
I mean, you don't really
Eh,
have to. It's just, work with
Yeah.
what you know and the tools that you have available.
And
If
in
you
your
want to
case,
make something,
you're
you have
making
to.
yeah. In your case, you're making use of all the overhead you cleared up. Like there's tons of eye
Yeah.
candy and systems and stuff going
Yes.
on. That,
Right. Yeah.
By
like you said, you've been in
if you
this
were
5
only
years.
using blueprints, yeah. If you were only using blueprints, that means fewer things that you can do before falling apart. So the other thing to point out too, and that's just for people listening, is that most of the APIs that like engineers write, we think about blueprints as like our end client, but almost everything you do in Blueprint can be done directly in C++, and the APIs look really similar. So if you prototype something in Blueprint, typically it's straightforward to quote unquote nativize it.
Mhm.
There used to be an automated Blueprint to C++ nativizer. I don't really know what the current status of it is, but it's pretty straightforward to kind of just do it yourself. And then once you're in that domain, you have a lot more power to do things that are a lot more difficult to do in Blueprint.
Yeah.
Like for example, the dynamic API that we built for Blueprint for building meta sounds, like that's a Blueprint API. You can use Blueprint to build your meta sounds, but it also constitutes a really nice C++ interface that Zuko's using to build his meta sounds. So he doesn't really need to use the Blueprint part of it. If that makes sense.
Yeah, and I think on the topic of just kind of like optimization stuff, I had brought up. So here you can kind of see I am capped at 60 FPS, but the main like game thread right now, just for all these nodes, there's some operations happening. But to run something like this, I'm somewhere around like 6 ms. That would be significantly larger with Blueprint, like almost
Yeah.
double, if not triple.
Yeah.
So that's just something to keep in mind. And this is a cool one that comes with the game that is meant to be something you can vibe off of as well. So like these points, I can add the nodes to them.
I love the idea of the vibe node.
I think they're fun.
So speaking of vibing,
Awesome.
your mix guy, your guy that like nods his head.
Yeah, this head bob.
Yeah, head bob is that. So what 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 made you want to put that in? I mean, I think it's cool, but now I want that kind of guy in all of my creative endeavors. I want somebody to just be like vibing on what I make, I'm like, yeah, head bob, like hell yeah, this is pretty sweet.
The real, like the true answer was a lot of the development happened during COVID. and I just kind of felt alone, and I wanted something to not be alone. Like that's all like
You need like positive affirmations.
Yeah, the truest answer. And like he started with like a little he was a huge like orb the size of this planet that would just bob to the music. So from there it just kind of turned into, well, what about making him be able to fly around? And then this being able to like Iron Man around is
yeah, that's pretty cool.
A rather big win, I think. And I hope, I don't want to promise it, but I hope, because now that there's like actual land formations, I hope to be able to land on them and actually walk. Like I want that, but I have to prioritize other things on top of that.
Well, once this gets huge, you can do a deal and have like head bob action figures.
That's right.
I'm just throwing it out there, man. Don't. Yeah,
Someone
you gotta think about the merch.
Head bob is the new Clippy. I love that.
Yeah, exactly.
Looks like you're trying to make a bass drop.
Hold on. Clippy went south.
You gotta hook
though.
it up to ChatGPT so it can just like start.
Clippy was bad.
You use more snare subdivisions leading up to your drop.
Yeah. This part isn't quite. It doesn't have enough hooks.
Yeah.
That would be great, actually, to have a head bob give you compositional advice. ChatGPT.
It's like Ask Madden. Ask Head Bob. Well, try a G flat.
Speaking, the icons for your scales, I kept wanting to go back to this.
Okay.
Are hilarious.
Yes, I think they're hilarious too.
So A major's joyful declaration of love.
Yeah.
The heart, but then you got.
It's also the tooltips. Tender. Wait. Go back. I want to see the tender. B major. Oh yeah, there we go. Okay. Grief, hopeful, optimistic.
Oh.
So why did you do that?
So a lot of this.
I mean,
is just
I love it, but why?
It's trying to communicate, a simplicity. Like, because I honestly didn't want B major or B minor in there. I wanted just the icons.
Interesting.
And it's the same actually with scales too. Like, I actually, I wanted an initial way to be able to avoid, throwing. Because I feel like a lot of people look at this and they immediately get overwhelmed because they don't know music. And like, I relate with that
really
quite a bit
point.
because when I see the letters, I don't typically think of the music in letters. Like I think of it in numbers. It's weird. That's how I always thought. That's why when somebody says B double flat, I'm like, what number is that?
Yeah. We just had this.
That's amazing.
The other day.
You know what's funny? Also, if you are a musician and you start trying to make music with it, there's all kinds of really interesting things that you've done that are not. You're like coming up with the kind of your own musical language. Like another interesting one is your rhythms. How you decide rhythms. You don't use the semi-quaver, quaver, hemidescent, whatever quavers, right?
I know what those are. Yeah,
exactly. You
I don't know what those are.
You just use like a grid. Like show them the between
you talking about
notes.
the drums?
Like this, no. Like
what
is rhythm? Yeah, what is rhythm? But a duration between notes, right?
Right. Okay.
Articulated. And so you came up with this, and it makes a lot of sense. But it's totally. I would, as a musician, I never would have thought of this as a thing. Like I just wouldn't have done it. But it's great. So in other words, you create this additive delay between events. Yeah.
But I didn't.
So show them. I don't know if it's easy to show them. You kind of did it earlier, but
yeah. So like in between the links, you can change these timing elements, and like adding something like 2 on 2 gives you a longer note. If I take that away, it goes faster. If I do 4, slightly longer. So these are just to one-to-one to musical notation. It'll show you what it is. Like it's an eighth note or a fourth or a quarter note. I see. It's like I my musical background is very much like band class in high school. So I haven't gone from there. So a lot of this stuff, even when I'm trying to explain it, I feel kind of dumb because I'm like, so 1/4 note. So I have to remember. I have to like try to describe it and remember it as well.
That all the music notation with rhythms is just fractions and fractional math, and it's one of the things like you're teaching music to a 3rd, 4th grader, and they haven't learned fractions yet. Okay, so it's a quarter note. Okay, so what's a quarter? It's like it's just
So instead, it's I think this is simpler, and I'm
It
glad.
makes a lot more sense. More cubes mean more time.
Yeah. And then this half triangle is an afterthought, which is a 30-second note.
Yeah, that's a yeah. You had to start going the other way.
I was like, oh no, I need 30-second
Okay, now what are you
notes.
gonna do with a 64th note? You got to make a tinier, even tinier slice.
Yeah, and
Honestly,
or like thirds or anything like that.
Yeah,
I'll have to figure out a
just
cool way
increase the
to.
tempo at that point.
I feel like I need to have that clipped somewhere now. Of more cube mean more time. I feel like
Yeah, exactly.
sounds two ways.
I mean, there's a whole bunch of really interesting, like if you're into UX and just the problem of UX, music is filled with terrible UX, and so I feel like there is, if with an open mind, lots of opportunities to explore new ways of conceptualizing and expressing music. And there's
Definitely.
a lot of interesting ideas in here.
I agree about the UX thing. It's tough, and if anybody has ever worked in like, you know, worked with VST plugins or any like extra things, every single audio thing has its own specific
Yeah,
interface. Some of them are like weird. Actually, most of them are pretty weird.
yeah,
And a lot of them, like for me, learning music on my own, I'm like, this is some of the ones that are really simple and I like those, but the ones that are overwhelming, I'm like, nope, I'm
yeah.
gone. If it has more than
We
like 12 knobs, I'm usually like, where's the next one?
Yeah, and there's all kinds of crazy insider lingo that's just makes no sense and it's historical. Like we work with Grace Yen, our product manager, and her background's not audio or music, so sometimes we'll be explaining stuff, and she's like, "Who would think that's?" I'm like, "Don't worry, like everybody will know this." She's like, "That doesn't make any sense." I'm like, "Well, that's just like what we call it in music, like that's
This is what it
you
is.
know, yeah, and there's like language that we audio and music use that if you used it slightly incorrectly, you'd be like, oh, you have no idea what you're talking about. It's almost like this weird subculture, sub language.
Mhm.
I don't know. It's not necessarily good, but
I have a
So,
filled with
question.
it.
That's go ahead.
oh, I was just gonna show off lasers, but if you want to ask a question before I show off lasers, that's fine too.
Kind of more of a creative process question, but all your stuff, you've done a great job of making it easy to get something going out of the hood, like the vibe nodes and stuff like that. And even just the fact, like, it sounds like you have a baseline delay going. Like, everything just sounds good quickly. I'm curious, when you were making new features and working on this stuff, how early in the process of making something new do you make it sound good right away? You know what I'm talking about? Versus when you're
Uh,
iterating on something, and every time you iterate on it, you have to go set it up to make it do what you want. Does that make sense?
well, I think so. I think the funny part about something like that is because the game is constantly testing musical things. I kind of naturally try to make things sound good as quickly as I can, just for my sanity, because most of the
Yeah.
time working on this thing, I'm going to be sitting there and listening to this
Yes. Over and over and over and over and over.
Yeah,
for
sure.
5 hours
You
straight,
don't want it to be a
trying
sine
to,
tone. Yeah.
yeah.
That's I on my side, because I've in the past I've done a lot of procedural music, and one of the first where it's like you're writing an algorithms and they create the music. The first one I wrote, I remember thinking I mean, I probably worked on it for 2 or 3 weeks where it sounded like complete shit. Like, or sorry, it sounded terrible, and I was like, oh my god, I'm never gonna get this to sound good. And then the day that it sounded good, I was like so relieved, just from the standpoint of my own like sanity.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I can totally empathize with wanting to make it sound good as fast as possible, because otherwise listening to the same terrible stuff over and over would be aggravating.
Yeah.
Bummer.
I try to get to the good stuff as quick as I can. Otherwise, I'm sitting there listening to terribleness, and it's awful. So, yeah,
I think a lot of composers could empathize with that too. By the way,
uh,
listening to the one
it's
bar
like
seven thousand times.
it's a gift and a curse when you're working on, because the other thing you can't do when you're working on a music game is you can't listen to music while you're working on music.
Mhm.
Yeah,
And that part is a really hard one for me, because that's part of why I switch to artistic things a lot of the times, because I'm like, I just want to jam to something else right now.
yeah,
But
that's interesting.
yeah, there's lasers in the game too,
Yeah.
and here's all
That's
of them
the
at
root of
once.
the dash no sound problem in game audio, by the way. So you have all these artists that are, and they mute your game because they're sick of listening to it.
So these are chained together to play lasers at once, and lasers are really neat because you can tell them to play when you want them to, or you can tell them to play based on their proximity. So, and you can see you can also change like all their different colors. But these colors I think are based off of their closest ones. Maybe it's been a while since I've worked on this one, but the basic idea though is that if I place something like this node from scratch, sounds like that, cool. And then if I placed a laser, you'll see right away this laser reacts to the closest node that it can find. Or if I connect it, you'll see that it stops reacting. Then if I test the connection, it'll actually just play when the connection plays instead. So it's kind of like a cool way to choreograph like a laser show or something, and to kind of show that there's this, or kind of to show a little bit more of like how many lasers you can have. The answer is kind of yes, because they are just the same as everything else, like particle effects, and their proximity stuff is rather cheap.
Oh, that's so cool.
So you can see like these are just looking for the closest one it can find, and this is I think 1,000 of them.
Oh my
Maybe
God.
it's 500 or 1,000. I don't remember. But
So, do you have plans of, because one of the things that you have in this is a very consistent aesthetic style that seems to map well. It's kind of like a purplish thing.
Right.
Do you have any plans of like supporting skins or having different style packs or
So
that kind of a thing?
one of the things I really want to get in before 1.0 is something called warp nodes. I've been thinking about warp nodes for like probably a year or two now. Just I want to be able to activate a node and switch the theme. And the first two themes that I want, which I don't want to do any more than two for 1.0, just because I might not even be able to get to the second one. We'll see. But the first one that I'm going to work on is some sort of like wintry landscape, and the second one is like a grasslands, because people love grasslands.
Yeah.
And it'd be nice to just switch out of space for a moment. And that's part of why I called it Mixed Universe, is being able to switch kind of the theme without it working against it. That's why it's not like Mixed Galaxy. I guess Galaxy still kind of works, or Mixed Planet. Well, I guess Planet kind of works too. Whatever. That's why I chose Universe.
Multiverse.
Yeah, the mixed multiverse.
I tried to prove myself wrong there, and it just kept working. So another really interesting thing that you can do, so everything is integrated with the Steam Workshop. So you can have your own items and upload them to the workshop. So all of these like mixes are something that I've made and uploaded to the workshop. And I also have mixes that I'm subscribed to that other people have made on the workshop.
Do you have any plans of monetizing this? So like people like, just sorry, I'm such a business guy, but I'm just curious. Like, is there like
Not about skins?
It's not about skin. Just like it's like someone spends hours and hours and hours on a creative thing. It would be cool if there was a way to monetize that.
Steam has a built-in like creator monetization type program for workshop items. I don't know how to integrate it just yet, as far as like how to use it, but there is a route that potentially that could be a thing. Right now, the answer is no. And likely for 1.0, the answer is also no.
Yeah.
But
I mean,
in
that's
the future,
a whole world of complexity to deal with.
Yeah. In the future,
like,
it's not out of the realm of possibility, though.
Yeah.
Like I think it's a cool idea too. If people actually are in there and using Mixed Universe to listen to stuff, I feel people should have motivation to do that. And one of the biggest motivators is money.
Yeah, exactly.
So one of the cool things. One of the cool things is this was a mix that this was the first mix that somebody submitted for us, as Super Easton is the user, submitted on day one of early access, and it's a cool like simple mix using one of the template landscapes and kind of expanding upon it and learning. And I think it's just a neat way to show, like, right out of the gate, if you're willing to learn or willing to kind of get used to the systems a bit, you can make something cool. The fun part, though, is that you can take this and you can do stuff to it, and then you're a collaborator. So,
I see.
and I want to expand
really
upon this
cool.
in the future to make it a little bit more streamlined. But what I did just for fun, because I was listening to it, I was like, this could have a cool piano melody.
So is there like metadata that says it's based off of this other thing?
Yep. So I track based on like when you upload it and who uploads it to the workshop. I track a workshop history. So all of the mixes have a workshop history inside of their save data. So here is something that I took the same thing and then added a melody on it. You can see right here it says Mixonaut Super Easton and then featuring Chris Zuko.
Featuring, I like that. So what if I copied this thing and I added to it? Would it be so and so featuring Chris Zuko, featuring Aaron, and like kind of just have a featuring chain?
Yep, it would be a featuring chain. So you could, if you had like 50 people featuring, it would. Right now, the UI would probably span across the screen. But if that becomes a problem, that's a pretty easy.
You gotta have a featuring scroll.
And friends. So this
that would be pretty cool if there was like a mega piece that was just started and just lasts for years and years, and you could build like a featuring graph.
That's what would be like. That's an ultimate pipe dream right there. I would love that. So from here, Super Easton saw that, and now he took that and
he added onto your thing,
onto this. So we're starting like this chain now.
Now you got a jam going.
Yeah. So now it's my turn to add on to it.
So who's featuring who at this point?
It's still like he's the original creator of the track.
All right.
So
this raises a question somebody asked in chat, but it's like a natural follow-up. Is you're now talking about a collaboration mechanism. Have you thought about real-time networked like multiplayer collaboration?
I've thought about it, and it's one of the things that people bring up a lot of time. Like I got quite a few comments on like TikTok and Instagram about this, and I want that as a thing in the future. I also, though, respect the fact that any multiplayer components for any game is essentially like cutting half the features off of the game. And what I mean by that is that you either need more people to do it without cutting half the features, or if you're the same team working on it, you're cutting your game in half, because that's how much it takes to implement multiplayer.
Production standpoint.
Yeah. That's kind of like that's what I've always equated it to, because I've worked on Mother Gunship and Mother Gunship Forge so far, are both multiplayer games. And if they didn't have multiplayer, you could have more game. It's just kind of the catch-22,
I have to say I've never thought of adding multiplayer support as a production limitation or a production cost. I always think of it as a performance or something, or latency or something like that. But
no, but that's how I think of it, because I don't know. I always think of what the game could have been or could be.
Yeah.
So it's hard for me to jump into that, and that would be my immediate thing. Is I would need a proper amount of funding to get more of a team in order to do it without having to cut X.
Well, now you got your elevator pitch to get.
I'll just clip this and I'll send this over to.
Yeah. Yeah, but like everything would have to be replicated and all this stuff, but you theoretically could do it.
It's possible, and I think it would be amazing to be able to collaborate together. In a similar realm, though, I've always wanted like a city builder that was multiplayer in that way. I feel like
there's a lot of games that it would be so cool to be able to collaborate on. Like in general, I'd say multiplayer creative experiences need to be more of a thing in general.
I agree. Yeah, I think it's cool.
I do like the system you have, just because it feels a little bit like musical pen pals at the moment.
Yeah, it is cool. I love musical pen pals.
It is, yeah, like because it's back and forth sending like letters in musical format.
Exactly.
People have done that for a while now, where they like make a mix and then they send it over email or whatever. But I kind of like the structure here and the constraint and the system,
the history.
I don't know. There's the visual component is also pretty big from a pen pal perspective.
So, any millennials in here will get this, or millennials or further, I'm interested as to how many Gen Z folks will understand what this is.
Oh, nice. Oh my god, this is great. Ooh, did you make this?
No, this is Eric. Yeah, it's awesome.
That's amazing.
Well,
I would love to know anybody who doesn't get the reference.
as a Gen Zer, I'm the sagest of Gen Zs. I
You
don't
don't get
get
it?
it. So-
Oh, there you go. Thank you, Tina.
Yeah.
There we go.
That is the sound of a dial-up modem. Musified.
Yep.
I got it right away. That tells you how old I am. As soon
56K.
as it went do-dee, I was like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, oh yeah. No, yeah, it's an old. We used to have to get on the internet. I'm the oldest here, probably. I'm 42. We had to get, Mom, get off the phone. I'm
Yeah.
Yeah.
come on. If you go,
I wonder what this sounds like at
uh,
2. Does this work?
yeah, that right there. Yeah. So that's making the call, making the connection. And then it does this crazy noise thing.
And then you're connected to the
And then you're
world.
connected, yeah. Yeah, it would literally make that sound every time you got on the internet.
It would.
Yeah.
What
So, there
a
you go.
world we live in.
I like that one. That one's such a cool, like, weird but added thing. Then there's
I linked it to the YouTube chat, a link to a video that is doing dial-up modems for the,
oh, that's
for
good.
the
Yeah, so
people
people can see.
listening.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So this is Flight of the Mixonaut.
Yep.
Oh, and
Nice.
the lasers with this one.
Man, the fact that you can't like import a MIDI file, right? I'm just like groaning at the amount of effort to make this.
Yeah, this I think it took about an hour to do. So yeah,
Oh,
a
it's not
MIDI
that
file
bad.
would.
Not bad actually, but yeah.
It's not terrible, but it's also by somebody who probably has around over 100 hours in the game now at this point.
Yeah, so they're fast.
So they've gotten a lot faster. Eric is definitely has gotten a lot of Mixonaut time.
So for those who don't know, that was Flight of the Bumblebee, a very famous piece in classical repertoire.
And then that at 2x.
Yes.
Oh, there we go.
It's
a
actually
test
at
of
a
the
cap.
quartz timing.
Like, it's not at 500 BPM right now.
I mean, it's at the order where you could imagine that being machine guns.
Oh,
in terms of the timing.
Don't worry about what just happened. Yeah, it's just a bunch of machine guns.
Got to bring it to the violence. Somebody did ask like, when is Head Bob getting a gun, and I didn't want to ask you, but I'm assuming you want this to be a non-violent game.
I will say that it's very unlikely for Head Bob to have a gun for a very long time.
What's funny is your other game that you do during the day is a violent
It's all
game.
guns. If you want guns, go play Mother Gunship Forge. It's a pretty sweet game where you build guns like Legos. Oh yeah.
Still creative though.
This one is fireworks.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Oh, that's awesome.
Wow.
I love the music too.
Wait, are those lasers or is that another?
These are all nodes.
I think he's doing it with layers. He's like
And
animating
these-
with layers.
And he's taking use of the fact that each node, when they play a sound, it does like this vertical thing.
Yeah.
So it looks like it's
So
shooting.
it looks like it's shooting, yeah.
That's great.
Super clever.
Man, so you got to keep Eric on the books here because he is a genius. This is crazy.
Yeah, I could stare at this for hours.
I love it. This is the kind of stuff that would show up on my Spotify weekly recommends. Max, I don't just listen to crazy noise music. I also like other things. and jazz. I don't just listen to jazz.
One of the really cool mixes. This one I think is a proper like it's not a mega mix, but it's like a proper structured kind of what I would imagine players getting into doing more and more over the course of the early access period. When people start understanding the game a little bit more, you could make something like this. So it's not like blowing up your CPU, but it actually is structured and well done.
So here's a question.
I love this
so
part.
let's say,
Hold on. This part's really cool.
Sorry. Oh yeah.
Okay, now you can roll.
That was cool. I was gonna say though, like, let's say I love this song so much and I spend hours making it, and it's like this phenomenal thing. Can I export this easily, or would I have to just screen record it? Could I maybe say, for example, bounce high quality to a WAV file and then use this in my like game or wherever I want, or post it to SoundCloud or something? I don't know.
So this is also another really common one that I get, and I would love to be able to say that you can export this and use this commercially, but right now you cannot.
Okay.
And it's just based on the limitations of the samples that are being used.
Got it. Yep.
That sort of thing. In the future, that might change because it's honestly just going through a lot of the legal juggling for that.
Yep.
But
so like derivative works and stuff.
You can create videos of it. That's perfectly fine. It's just when it comes to the commercial realm of things, when you're actually like using it commercially, that's where it gets a little bit fuzzy.
Yeah, I mean that's where in a DAW situation, like comparing it, DAW sometimes ship with default sample packs and stuff, but they've gone through tons of stuff to license that so that you can use it in your projects. That's usually very expensive. So you know, for a night project that you do on the side, that's
eventually. I do want to go through those hoops because I do think there's a lot of value in what is being created. Like you could take something that is made in Mix Universe and sample it, you know, like if you were able to use it commercially, you could sample it and use it for your own stuff, or just use it straight up. Like some of the stuff sounds really good. You know, I don't think it'll ever be as good as a DAW, but
of course.
I don't really plan it to be. And I think
whenever you do want to do that, there is a non-real-time export feature in Unreal Engine that we have that you could hook into. If you wanted you could do a deterministic, ultra high quality non-real-time export bounce of your stuff. That is a feature that does exist that you could utilize if you ever wanted to.
The hard part about that is all the sounds are all like individual audio components playing. So
yeah, but it's still you could remove all of your restrictions if you wanted, like because it's a non-real-time bounce, so it executes the game thread and everything non-real time. You know what I'm saying? So we use it in sequencer for like ultra high quality bounces.
Right.
So it becomes like a video editor, you know. So anyways, just
I might have to hit you up more about that after this.
Yeah.
Because I'm not sure
work.
if we're both thinking about all the different complexities.
Yeah, it would be good
the same way. But I hope I'm wrong.
No, it should work. I'm pretty sure it'll work, but we could talk about it technically. This is how it happens, by the way. This is how the scene.
Just show the audio team cool stuff, and then you get cool stuff. Easy.
Yeah, exactly. Well, or just like troll our submissions, because I cannot believe that you have in your early access something off of UE5 main. Like you're using an unreleased version, or did you just port?
I ported the audio engine.
To
5.2.
Never mind. So he's like he's hand ported our features we're checking in for 5.3 into 5.2, because that actually sounds insane, but is less insane.
It is less insane, but it is kind of insane, and I am honestly shocked that it worked. So I'm rolling with it. Because I saw the builder API get submitted, and I was like, I want, please.
That's insane. Well, we are fixing tons of bugs in it, so you probably want to keep an eye out on our
definitely
our CLs if you want to port them over.
You had a video.
Honest, we're just devs here. There's bugs. We write bugs.
You had a video at one point I don't know if you have the mix handy of you're using pitch and time stuff to, I think you had some vocal elements that you could would follow the BPM without affecting pitch, or you could
Oh,
change the pitch without affecting
Yeah,
the playback speed.
time stretching.
I do have the mix. It is broken.
Oh, did we
I-
break it or did you break it?
I broke it.
Oh,
I had a feeling that might come up, but I didn't get a chance to actually fix the BPM part.
People can check it out on your YouTube though. It's pretty.
Yeah.
Slick.
It's honestly a really quick fix. Like I just have to track down where it broke. That's the longest part is
Yeah,
figuring out
that's
how
funny.
I broke it. Because when I'm saying quick fix, I know it's going to be like a one-liner. It's just one of those things that I broke along the way. Is somewhere I'm not telling it to constrain to the right BPM. So it's just it doesn't follow the tempo as much. It's still, I can open up and I think what it doesn't do is it won't follow tempo changes, but it'll still follow pitch changes. So I can at least show that.
Yeah.
So I linked to the YouTube chat the tutorial I wrote. I think it's a little bit outdated now.
I don't see
outdated
your
now,
links.
but
I don't think YouTube lets you paste links.
Oh, really?
Oh, you're getting filtered.
We'll Google it. Google it. Just Google
Suppressed.
Metasound time
Let's
chip
see.
node. But anyways, that's what he's using here, or used when it was working, and it's pretty cool.
Yeah, so this is the pitch stretching here is real-time pitch stretching. So if I change this,
I didn't speed up.
So
right, it changes the pitch, but it doesn't change the timing. So I think
Yes.
as long as let's see what it sounds like just right now. It might sound awful. Yeah. I need to put it back to like, this was me messing with it and going, oh no, it's broken. But I think if I put it at 120, this should. I can't remember if the original sample is 120 or not.
So it's using a essentially granular method to like split the audio up and play it
Maybe
back
a
at
little
different
faster.
rates while keeping the duration constant.
There we go. I think that's closer to synced. So now, like, the cool thing is I can change the tempo without losing sync.
Globally.
That's what I mean. Yeah, the pitch.
Yeah.
So you can see like the vocals are changing, but they're not becoming out of sync.
Yeah, if you were to just change the playback rate, it would get faster or slower. It would be like, I'm alright. You know,
Right.
when you lower it down.
Like if I did actual pitch, it'll probably do that right now, I think. So this is actual pitch. So that's the difference.
Yeah.
I'm scared.
Yeah.
Are you alright?
I'm not okay. Okay. There's a question here from Twitch. They're wondering if they can pitch bend at all.
You mean
Over-
like pitch over
Like
time?
while it's playing.
I think specifically they said, "Can I pitch bend to make wobble?"
Yeah, like
There-
just in case people in the audience didn't know what that meant.
Not at the moment. Easily is probably the best answer for that.
You have like modulation nodes, right? Like
I do.
LFOs and
They've gone through stages of being consistent when it comes to that. So
okay.
like there was an LFO that I had at one point. I think I actually just took it out because I do plan on like pretty much integrating an entire system to be able to make wobbles on almost every single modulation value. So the idea would
Have
be...
you checked out the audio modulation plugin in UE?
I have opened that up, got overwhelmed, and closed it many times.
All right. Well, we're working on new documentation because you're not the only one who's given me that feedback.
I've been like, this seems like it'd be cool, and then I closed it.
I'm gonna send that to you because I feel like once you grokked it, I feel like it would be a good tool for arbitrary modulation of any parameter in your graph. That's what it's designed for. So it should work, but we have improved the documentation.
So for
we're going
instance,
to
though,
adjust.
I should be able to get something like this if I have this pitch bending up. I should be able to have another starter tell this modulator to change, and now it does like a pew. But this used to be a little bit easier to control, so I want to get
It
that
sounds like
back.
it's zippering. You know the zippering. You know this term. Yeah.
So what I want to do is have a way, instead of plugging directly into the modulator, I want like an up and down, so that way you can kind of like control the state. So I guess while this is playing, I can do the knob directly. So this is essentially what it's changing. So if I do that, I can do a wobble by hand. So having the ability to
Yeah.
do that a little bit more on like a node basis, like a controlled
Yeah.
way, I think is what I ultimately want. Just right now, it's kind of defaulting to a really fast like on-off instead.
So what it sounds like it's doing is what's called zippering, where the parameter is getting set at like the game thread tick, but not interpolating at the audio rate. So you get sort of like as it's modulating. And so the audio modulation plugin should fix that if you were to use it, because you set the modulation parameter you can control, and it does all of the smoothing and interpolation.
How much of that would be from the granular nature of this?
Oh yeah, that's true. If you're using
Yeah, I think
pitch
what you're
shift
hearing is
node, then
just
that might
pitching.
Yeah.
It's the
okay.
so like something like filtering should be smoother, I think.
Okay, yeah. Well, that's harder to hear zippering anyways. Yeah, that sounds better.
Yeah.
Yeah, the
'Cause all
pitch
I'm
shift
doing is
node
just
is
interpolating
granular,
over
so it has
time, so-
artifacts. Yeah.
Like I am smoothing it out.
Okay.
Oh, I don't remember if we mentioned this at all earlier, but there's someone on YouTube wondering if there's a way to connect MIDI controllers.
Oh yeah. So any node that you previously selected, so it chooses just one. So if I select a node, you can plug in your MIDI device. It's just in the options. You can go to audio. There's allow MIDI input, and then you choose which one. And hopefully you pick the right one. And then
Did you use our MIDI plugin, by the way?
yes.
Okay, so it is
So
working. Working.
yeah, I'm just gonna pick. Some sounds are a little bit more latent and depending on what you use, but like
Yeah.
right now, I think it might actually be a little bit delayed.
Yeah, getting the MIDI latency right is a little tricky. Right now, the UE MIDI plugin goes through Blueprint, goes through the game thread before sending, so you'll have that little extra bit of latency in addition to the hardware latency. But we do want to get MIDI support directly into MetaSounds, so you can drive your MetaSounds without having to go through the game thread at some
And
point.
so that's you playing live right now.
Yep.
That's so
This,
cool.
in general, when I start randomly talking about stupid stuff, I would love to have just this piano in the background. Just I'm a big fan of that.
Makes it sound very
Makes everything I say
inspirational.
sound more profound.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the MetaSounds roadmap with Zuko, dulcet tones behind me.
You gotta do the new TikTok thing where it's like GTA video clips going on behind you.
Right.
Exactly.
Keep everyone's attention.
Yeah. Or
That's what you got to do
Minecraft
is get this
hardcore.
plugged into TikTok.
There's your
What were
four
you saying,
chord
Tina?
Mm-hmm.
right there. So yeah, you can plug in and use your MIDI keyboard. I think I haven't actually tested this in a long time, so if this doesn't work, I'll fix it. But you can do, if you are more of a audio production type person, there is an option here. If you hit record on all of these, you can then do in the order of which you hit record. You can then do like, and that should have done. Nope. So that's kind of broken. It did this one.
Oh, I see. So you can actually author what note each note's playing.
Oh, I messed
Yeah,
it
so
up.
you can go faster through it.
Yeah, that's cool.
Maybe that's how the
I
Flight
was
of the
just gonna say
Bumblebee was
Flight of the
done.
Bumblebees. Yeah.
That's what I would have done if I had.
Yeah,
You
maybe.
get your like speed run. People have speed runs of how fast they can
Yeah.
Flight of
Back
the
when I was
Bumblebee.
doing a lot of composition with like music notation tools, you have to get a MIDI keyboard and just like bam it in like fast because it's
Yeah, the
moving
reason
by
why I
hand is
haven't
so
tested
slow.
it though is just mostly because I'm trying to not implement. I'm trying to not make this like a primary thing that you have to rely on. Is kind of
Yeah, yeah.
the thought
Not
process.
everybody has MIDI controllers.
Yeah.
So the follow up, the obvious next question. So we talked about MIDI input. We'll ignore
Mm.
MIDI output, but what about MIDI files?
Right. I I think this is way more of a road that is doable than like exporting audio and actually using audio directly.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
being able to import and export MIDI
yeah. MIDI
files
files. Yeah.
is a huge like that's on my list for sure for 1.0.
It would be crazy if you import a MIDI file and then you do some kind of procedural content
Hmm.
generation
That's
based
the
off of what's in the MIDI file, and then it just like generates a landscape, and you're like, what does this MIDI file look like? That would be
there's
crazy.
there's two kind of thought processes I have for that, and generating some sort of landscape is a cool one. That's obviously the harder one. The one I feel like is going to be more accessible, or at least like something that could translate nicely, is taking sections and being able to like import and export sections out of these like radar nodes. So like radar nodes,
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
if you place nodes along this, I showed this a little bit before, but just to like recap, if I place these nodes here, doot doot, and then I
And
hit
that's like kind
play,
of a more traditional music notation thing. It'd more easily translate.
right? So you could actually set this radar node to be much more complex or much bigger. Just trying to, so like this is now set to 128, so it's
Yeah,
meant to be used much larger. So if I make the radar node like this, now these like little, you can kind of see it's a little bit faint, but these like sections that indicate uh, where where the main markers are.
yep,
So now this is something where you could actually have a really easy way to import and export nodes
yep,
in a way, or import and export MIDI files to nodes in a way
yeah,
that's like actually predictable. Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
there's some other thoughts I have on like not using this and still getting somewhat predictable. Like by default, they could try to do some radial pattern based on length
Yeah.
and do some cool thing. And I think there's a lot of opportunities there that aren't the hardest and actually like quite feasible to be able to
Yeah.
get MIDI support, because I feel like
Yeah.
that's a good
Yeah.
good answer to a lot of musicians that are like, well, I can't use the file, so why even try? It's like
Yeah. Yeah.
why even play around with this thing? Um,
Yeah. Yeah. Um. By the way, when looking at this, this is a wild question, but my mind is already kind of going off a tangent thinking about it. Is Mobius strips? Have you ever thought about like a Mobius strip radial thing? So it's not looping, but it's so in other words, you go on one side and then it's on the other side. So it's like a two-sided sequencer.
But the one
You know
thing
what a
no,
about
Mobius?
Mobius strips is one-sided.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
just like you make your thing twice as long. This
I
is
don't
how
I
we
don't know
work,
what a
by the
Mobius
way.
strip is.
What'd you say, Max?
So this is how we work. This is our process.
This is exactly our process. We
This
just sit
is the
around
development.
saying random shit.
Like
Yeah,
never yeah.
yeah.
Until someone says yes.
Typically, Aaron will say something like that I don't understand, and then I go, "Oh, that's cool," and then eventually, so
You
I
know what a
don't.
Mobius strip? Mobius strip is you take this and then just flip it and then reconnect it. Like
Oh, like
take the
a.
thing, and then rotate it and then reconnect it. That's a
Okay,
Mobius
okay,
strip.
okay. I see what you're saying.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But what's cool is
But make it
if you traverse it, it'll flip. It's as Max said, topologically it's one sided. It's a one sided 2D shape.
right. Yeah,
But like it would look like it's going above and below, right?
I feel like something like
What's
that.
cool, it's like a loop without repeating, but it is repeating. It's like this weird thing.
Something like that could be easier to add once snapping is a little bit more refined.
Yeah, yeah,
So being able, like right now, it doesn't snap to any of this stuff. Having the ability to actually snap to certain parts, then you could have all sorts of different shapes. Because the other thing I thought of was, this is all like hypothetical. None of this is promised, but it's all just like having a quarter section, or even like a straight, and then or something even wilder would be like a click and drag, draw your own.
Like a racetrack.
Yeah, draw your own track type thing. So
yeah.
And then you got to get a cart, and then it would be Mix Bob cart.
then it's truly Minecraft.
Then it's truly Minecraft.
Well, I have a request for all of you, and feel free to say no, that's a terrible idea, Tina, if it is. I'm willing to accept that answer. But a little over 10 minutes left, and I thought it could be fun if, since y'all are quite musically inclined and audio focused, if we try and put together a bit of a mix for the end part of the stream here before we end it for the day. But if that's a bad request, you can say no.
Can we watch Zuko do it, and then we can just we'll just heckle him while he does it?
Sounds great. On it.
Yes.
Can we make it minor? Can you make it minor? Is it easy to make it minor?
Oh wow, here we go.
This is what I'm saying.
Here we go. All right.
Can we make it? We're not talking major, minor, all that. I want the flexing key. Whoever's doing the bicep.
Yeah. Sorry. The flexing key.
In the key of bicep.
B major.
Oh, the B major is the strong key. All right. I want the depressed key, the one where the guy's looking real so sad.
Next scene or next.
Okay, we're flexing now.
Oh, chat says sad face as well.
Oh, chat wants sad face. Okay, all right, fine.
Yeah, I mean that just sounds too strong. I want it to be.
I don't feel strong.
Depressed and lonely.
I feel depressed and lonely right now. So
there's multiple sad
emotions.
Rip.
Why is C sharp major?
Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it.
Don't worry.
I think it's the key signature is what makes you, and then minor.
Yeah, if you're a musician having to play a song in C sharp, that's how you feel.
Yeah.
It's too many sharps.
I've got some notes from composer type people on that type of stuff, so I'm aware of some of those being weird, and
it's just on the piano. It's just a lot of crazy black keys. That's all. All right.
C sharp minor.
There you go. The heartbreak.
Just play major and minor keys at the same time so that Aaron can enjoy it more.
Yes.
This person knows you.
Now, if you want to make me happy, do both.
I was at a restaurant one time with Aaron.
If we're truly going for sad,
and 2 songs were playing at 2 different restaurants, and he's like, "I love this."
Yeah. Yeah, it's true.
We're gonna go for sad. That's what we're going for, right?
All right, that's what we're doing. Yep. All right, now we need a fat beat. How fat can you make a beat? PH, of course.
Wait, what? I'm still trying to make it sad.
Oh, don't worry about it. You got to use longer tones.
Yeah. Okay.
Is this what you wanted, Tina?
Everyone knows that.
This is what I want.
Sad means slow and long.
What have I
Tell me what to do. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. I want a thing that goes like this. Oh, something like that. That's what I want.
1 2 flat 7 1.
Yeah, there you go. Thank you.
You say 1 2 1 7.
Yeah, there it is.
And it needs to be longer, and I need a filter, like a low pass filter.
More squares.
More squares for a longer time.
There we go. Hey, he got it.
There it is.
And now we need a low pass filter on them.
On it. Yeah, we're gonna do some.
That's
filtering.
way too bright sounding. It needs to be.
Mm-hmm.
There we go.
Okay, and then these need to be piano.
Yeah.
For sure.
Although I'm a big fan of the synth, but I agree the piano would make it sound more sad and depressing. There we go.
You need to get an audio clip of Aaron doing the choir, and then that needs to be an option.
Yeah. Can we import that?
One day.
I'll just
one
do
day.
it. All right, now we need a fat beat. Because I'm telling you, it'll sound so good with a fat beat.
All right. I believe you.
Here we go. Here we go. There we go. You know, like, you gotta get that.
Beat, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I'm searching. The drums. I have too many samples now. The whole entire menu.
Can't have enough. You cannot have enough drum samples.
Yeah,
you need
yeah,
to have
yeah,
at least
for
a
sure.
million more. Maybe the browsing method could.
Okay.
Yeah, there we go. That's what I'm talking about.
Nope. And then we'll make it so that it plays 2 of these before it goes to the next thing. So this should alternate now between the 2. And now I can do something like is that not fat enough?
That's pretty fat. And now I need a snare though.
Yeah.
I need a lonesome snare on the backbeat.
I'm loving it. Okay. Yeah, we'll get the classic 808 in here because that's the easiest to add, and then I'll change it.
Sure.
It's too fast, I think.
Only one of those. Yeah, only
Yeah,
one.
yeah.
There you go.
It needs to do the same thing. So actually, we'll do this. We'll copy and you gotta wiggle these sometimes. That's a bug.
So that's like an alternating node. It alternates.
Yep. So these patterns will play the first one, and then you can kind of see it'll queue up, and it'll tell you which one's gonna play next.
Oh, I see. Okay, cool.
Can we do the kick, the second half of the kick on the upbeats?
Yeah, we need a little bit of syncopation.
Syncopation.
Hold on. Okay. Okay, so then this would be like.
There we go. Now what we need, Zuko, is some crazy delays somehow. Kind of like...
Yep.
You know, kind of a sound.
We're on the same page right now.
Yeah, there we go.
No. That's too fast. Kind of just like it doing it twice.
To those who haven't made music like this before, how the at this point you might start getting really annoyed by
fatigued,
that
yeah.
ostinati. That's what they call the repeated thing over and over in the fancy music term.
Oh, really?
You're like, oh god, I'm so sick of it. But
yeah,
we'll get back to it. It's just an iterative process. There we go. I like that.
Ostinati.
Ostinati is multiple, so there's only one. You're right. There's ostinati. There we go. Okay, now we need some pads.
That kick. Can we shift the second kick?
Okay, yeah.
So
he wants some syncopation on the kick. All right. I'll concede that. Just a little bit of offset.
Like that?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's 2 of them.
There we go. Perfect right there.
Oh god.
Yeah. There we go.
Yeah.
There we go. Okay, we got a yeah. All right.
That's the one.
Oh yeah, we definitely need a hi-hat. I agree with that. Got to get that nice subdivision.
Then we need a harmony for the melody after that. Yeah.
Oh, this is good. This is good stuff. Okay, just gonna do.
The chat says that I have no talent. I'm assuming they said Epic Guy has no talent. There's 2 of us, but I assume it's me they're referring to.
Yeah, if you could get some talent, that'd be really helpful right now.
Great.
I know. I'm sorry. I'm working on it.
Eric,
I'm
come on.
really, really working on it. Talent is hard to just have, you know. That's why I get up every day and I do like talent sit-ups and stuff.
We're gonna do the same thing here. Oh, that was wonderful. It's like trying to speed mix.
Weren't expecting hard mode on the stream today, were you?
Well, we're trying to make the next
was,
Grammy-nominated track, you know.
Next, we'll add a drop that goes into Flight of the Bumblebees.
Yeah.
Oh. Okay. Yeah, I like that. I think that's a cool little trip. That's a technical term, right? Okay.
Yeah. I like it.
Okay.
I was suggesting a pad here, but I'm open to, you know, anything else.
I gotta make this
You
change a
get
little
some
bit though, first.
polyphony in there.
For my brain, I need to make my brain.
Yeah,
happy
we need
with
an
this.
alternate.
Okay,
Sometimes
so-
your threshold of being annoyed helps. Somebody said listening to us that they were reminded of a question that they wanted to ask earlier, which is there a select alt delete button?
Restart mix in the corner. You
Yeah.
click
Well,
and
don't
hold
click
that.
that because yeah, there you go. Start from
And then
scratch.
if you do that, you can get the tooltip stuck on the screen. The heck? Okay, cool. It's like, what?
This guy really doesn't like me in the chat.
At least add some variant. So now.
Yeah. It's good. It's good.
Ow. Throw in a space.
I'm a big fan of that. There we go. That's what we need. Like a nice little drone.
That's actually like a note I wasn't expecting, so I kind of like that.
I like it. Yeah.
So like now I want to do like do.
Yeah.
So this does something like
go to the fifth. Do.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
do.
There we go. You got it.
That'll resolve.
Resolve.
Yeah.
We'll see what the timing's like with that.
It'll be good. One of the things that your tool
boy.
supports really easily out of the box is phasing, like musical phasing, where things repeat at weird phrase lengths.
Amounts, yeah.
And it's so easy to make that, and I kind of love it. It's actually like hard to do that in a DAW because everything is so lined up on a grid, but yours supports this.
Right,
Like out of the box, it's hard not to do phasing. Not just repetition, but like different musical things of different phrase
getting
lengths
variety
lining
because
up.
they restart at different times.
Yeah, exactly.
That turned out pretty cool.
That's sick.
Yeah, I knew it would work. Wow, so good.
Awesome.
That's what I like
Seeing
about
it
the
live,
timing
folks.
too. Is it's just like the timing nodes allow you to
rhythms.
kind of just accidentally
Yep.
fall into stuff like this.
Turns out making music is easy. That's what this is telling me right now, that you don't
Yeah,
need to study.
Why even have musicians? I mean,
There we go.
Yeah, exactly. It's trivial. Just download Mix Universe and now you'll be famous.
that's not what I'm saying at all. I think musicians are very valuable, and I think they're really talented.
So what Zuko's saying is that his intention is to replace all musicians.
No, what? Not all musicians, just most.
Just most of them.
He's trying to get you in one of those clickbait articles tomorrow.
Yeah, I know.
They're gonna clip that.
I feel like we need one of those disclaimers on the screen of like these opinions. are
Ignore
not shared.
everything Aaron says. That's the disclaimer.
Got some spires. Because It wouldn't be a mix if you didn't feel inspired.
Yeah, we
There's my
got.
one
Someone said you
pun.
got to put this on
I
the
got a
workshop.
pun in.
Nice.
Because here's what we're gonna do. So you saw it happen live. When we finish, Zuko's gonna put this on the workshop. Then everybody who listened to this, we have like a couple hundred people. You gotta download Mix Universe and start jamming, and we'll have like this will be the
Start
Unreal
the
Engine
chain.
chain.
We'll use a
Yeah,
pen
jam
pal
chain.
with
Chain.
each other. That'd be so much fun.
We had lasers. Lasers.
Yeah. Well,
Oh,
maybe that's
sorry.
what you can download and add lasers to the jam chain.
I gotta finish a couple spiders, or else my brain will not be happy.
Gotta make sure your brain's happy.
Thanks. I appreciate allowing my brain to be happy. Look at all these spiders. Look at them all.
This
Okay,
is
anyway.
amazing.
Lasers. Yes.
Lasers, yeah.
Lasers. There we go. Got some lasers. We'll configure these to be straight up. So and make them a little bright. So these. Oop. Stoop.
So now, do we all feel like the way that icon looked for, like, just sad and nothing works?
Yeah,
Do you feel
I'm feeling
inspired?
so
This
sad. Kind of happy
this-
at the same time.
yeah, this is a inspirational song. I guess
do-
maybe I'm just inspired.
I
by
do
sadness.
feel like it's not as sad as, like, you know, being in front of the tombstone of somebody you just lost, but
Yeah.
got some lasers there. And then other things you can do with lasers, you can make them rotate different rotations. So kind of like control how much they do and then how slow as well. So these will be a little bit slower, but then kind of have a little movement.
We should have just been doing this the whole time. 2 hours. Imagine what we could do if we just had done this for 2 hours.
Yeah, the stream just started. We had to get all the questions out and show all the
Yeah, now
mixes
we just be
first.
creative.
But now it's just vibes.
Yes, now it's just vibes. Yeah, so
You know, I think Head Bob really likes this one.
look at him.
Kind of tell.
So
I can tell.
happy.
Look at that. Yeah.
Perfect.
It's not too fatiguing. Like I'm listening to it over and over, and I don't feel
Yeah,
like
no, it's great.
I'm hitting the
It's got that,
fatigue
like-
wall just yet.
Is
Although
that
I
a-
I think part of it is the
Like,
piano
really
and the ambient pad are not exactly lined up, so your brain kind of feels like
Right,
it's
so it kind of like
shifting.
helps.
Yeah.
And then you just spam a bunch of vibe nodes and see what happens.
Yeah.
If they would connect.
That one right there is not connected. You gotta connect it up.
Yeah, these are defiant.
Defiant vibes.
They're not vibing very well.
Just sticks in the mud.
If you don't like what you vibed with, you can always undo. Look at all the undos. It's amazing.
Nice.
All right, so my final question is, do you ever? So I'm big into procedural music, with like sort of randomness as an element, where even the composer doesn't really know. Is there anything like that where you could imagine a node that is just random by nature?
Let me
You didn't have
save
to stop the
this.
music, by the. Oh, you're gonna save it.
Yep, because there
'Cause
is
you like it. You don't want it to crash.
something. Yeah, just in case of a crash, which didn't happen.
No.
So what do we get?
Crashes.
Branching.
It did not
boops.
crash. What are
Branching
we gonna
boops,
call
This
it?
was what I was starting to work on last week on stream, and then my power went out. So I'm really glad my power is okay. Stop it. Okay.
So you got to
and-
upload that track so people can. You promise.
Yes.
All right.
What do we want to call the other one?
Someone called it
Uh,
chill oatmeal
The
eating
wisdom
music.
of Tina. What? Someone was gonna call it what?
I think someone in chat was eating oatmeal and they called it chill good oatmeal eating music.
There you
Good
go, perfect.
oatmeal eating music. Okay. Well, I gotta hunt it down.
LFG oatmeal. That's the name.
Doop, doop, doop.
LFG oatmeal. Yeah, I like that.
I think
That's
it's
good.
this one.
LFG oatmeal.
LFG oatmeal.
Yep.
Yeah, there you go.
And then existing categories, vibe nodes, apply. Boom.
There we
So
go.
to answer your randomization question, these patterns have the ability to randomize. So you can turn on.
Yes.
Why are
So
they
you
not
get a branching,
showing though?
randomized branching structure.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah.
This one's randomizing, but I think these should be as well. I just never
That's
got to
great.
that. So I can turn those on. So this starts getting a little bit more of a fun element to the pattern.
Yes.
So
Yes. Randomization is a big thing that I really appreciate.
So each one of these has a knob on top of it too, and these knobs
Yeah.
are basically like weight values. So you can make certain boops randomize more boopy than other boops.
Man,
That's the
I think I know what I'm gonna do tonight. It was either gonna be Baldur's Gate 3 or this, or I'm just gonna do this.
okay. You need to chill a little bit.
I need to chill.
Like I understand how Baldur's Gate 3 fits. You know, like
Yeah.
it's a great game.
But I didn't
I
know about this
appreciate
random
playing
thing. So my point though is that now I feel like I can do a bunch
Heck
of stuff
yeah.
that I want to, like stuff I'm.
Yeah, I'd love to see what people do with that. Not many people have messed with the randomization yet, so that'd be really cool to see. I've done some wild-looking ones that don't sound as good as they used to.
Yeah.
Like this one's called Random Fun, and it looks cool. But essentially, like what this
is awesome.
This has in it is like all these sections are randomizing. So in theory, it just randomizes between all the ones that's going around.
That's what I'm talking about.
So this one going around in a circle is just kind of activating the patterns randomly. So this will play whatever you want, or it'll play like randomly all the time.
That looks like an amazing wristwatch. I want that like as a wristwatch.
It does look like a wristwatch. This
awesome.
used to sound much different, but
Oh, I love this, dude.
that's
This is
the
great.
that's the cool stuff with the randomization. So the other thing it's doing is it's randomizing the layers too. So these are plugged into the layers, and these will toggle. If you hit the like little world icon at the top, it's an icon I need to change. It changes the layers from switching exclusively to non-exclusive, so they can just kind of like toggle on.
Yeah.
And that's what this is doing. And I don't remember.
Wow.
So.
Oh man.
Sweet.
It's so cool.
That's really cool.
So
I love
wanna
how
do
it kind
more
of
with
looks like a
randomization.
positronic brain too, because it's like lighting up randomly. I don't know if you guys know Star Trek, but Data's brain is a positronic brain, and when they open it up, you can see it lighting up in crazy ways. This reminds me of that. It's like neuronal connections.
Well, I feel like this is perfect background music to have for while we outro out of here.
Exactly.
And
It's time for lunch.
just want to give a big thank you, Zuko, to you for coming onto the show today and talking about your game, walking us through it, showing us all the crazy stuff you've put in it. And also, of course, big thank you to Max and Aaron for coming on to help us walk through some of the tools from the Epic side, explain the tech a little bit more in depth. This was a lot of fun. It was a great time having you on. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Tina.
I had a lot of fun too. I also want to say, Zuko, thanks for coming. This was awesome, and thanks for
Thank you
inviting
so
me.
much for having me. I think this is really cool to just be able to show.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And also have you drill me on audio stuff.
Direct you through your music making at the end there.
Yeah.
So good.
That's fun.
But yeah, thank you.
If anybody
also.
wants to have me sing some stuff, I'm available. I'm free for booking. If you need me for your game, I'll sing for you.
We'll get some samples in Mix Universe. How about that?
There we go.
Yeah, exactly.
There we go. That sounded like a verbal handshake to me. So Thank you all so much for coming on, and thank you everyone who came and watched the show. You being here and participating and asking questions is the highlight of this whole thing. So thank you for being here. If you missed any part of the show earlier, no worries. We post all of our streams in video format that can be viewed on demand on both our Twitch and YouTube channel at Unreal Engine. You can also keep up with us at Unreal Engine on all of our socials. And if you're not already, come join the forums. Come join our EDC where you can find tutorials, other like-minded developers, get answers to your questions, interact with our own devs from Epic, and all kinds of things. So if you're not part of it there, go ahead and join. It's a lot of fun. And last but not least, if you're interested in Mix Universe, it is available on Steam. I will drop the link for it in the chat here in just a second. I thought I had it copied and don't. It's okay. I'm going to find it. Don't worry. We're in fast mode. Oh no, there it is. Okay. And pasted. So if you're interested in getting it for yourself, it is in early access right now. Go check it out. And yeah, other than that, one last big thank you to the three of you for coming on today. And we'll see all the rest of y'all next week for next week's streams. Bye,
Thanks for having
everyone.
us.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.